So could Gravitas Ventures, so that's that new movie studio that they just purchased,
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
could that purchase help Impact sign Wyndham? Gravitas does horror.
Oh,
Gravitas does
oh.
horror movies. They actually have a selection, low budget horror, right? Nothing that's really been in the theaters or anything like that. They
The
they do have,
vast, the overwhelming majority of horror movies are low budget horror movies.
yeah,
So that's like perfect, especially in
right.
this day and era.
So could it could they do something where they, you know, like, hey, we want to bring you in for this amount of money, 35, 40 dates or whatever to wrestle or less, however you want to do it, and sign you to a three picture deal to produce your own horror movies.
Dude, that's a great idea.
Right.
That wow. I never thought of that. Cause like when we Scott and I briefly touched on this last week, and I'm like, WWE's shitty movie studio doesn't help WWE. I don't think Impact owning a shitty movie studio is gonna help them. I had not I
Oh,
had not considered bringing in Wyndham Rotunda in that particular role. Cause then like this happens a lot. Like especially with film people, is they get to do what they want as long as they do this other thing. Like this
mm-hmm.
happens a lot with contracts. John Cusack, you say I do one for them, I do one for me,
Yep.
right? So if you brought that to wrestling and said, "Hey, Wyndham, make your own fiend esque horror movies, keep the budget," because man, you could probably knock in this day and age, you don't need more than a couple $100,000 to knock out a decent, like a good horror movie on the cheap that's going to live on Shutter,
Right.
right? Which is probably, dude, that's a great idea.
I'm telling you, man, we gotta pitch this up to the boss. We gotta tell Uncle Len Asper and Scott Demore and those guys, like, hey, look, this is the pitch. Like, you want to get this guy at Impact, give him a three picture deal.
Let him do what he wants for
Yeah.
horror movies, right? Because you could keep the budget really, dude. It's so easy now with to get not easy. No, it is. It's way easier than when I was trying to do it. There's so many streaming options, and everybody like this. We're in. Everybody wants content,
Mm-hmm. Well,
and
and
like,
Imp and
yeah,
Anthem is planning on it. Now, I don't know why they would, considering they haven't figured out Impact Plus yet and how to get that shit going. But
it's a good call.
the idea is to create another streaming app to where they can hold all these movies. I think the better idea is for them to put all of their content into one app, because I don't think that there's going to be a big market for low budget movies for an app, right? The
They're,
market is big budget movies for apps, HBO Max, Amazon
uh,
Prime.
no, Shutter is a horror movie specific app that
That's
has
true.
tons of low budget horror movies. But the problem with that is there's already a Shutter. There
Yeah.
might be some offshoot ones too, and unless you're like a super horror fan, I don't know of
Well,
them.
but Gravitas does more than horror. They're mainly a documentary film series, and they actually have good documentaries. By the way, I've seen some of them. They're actually
But
pretty good.
but here's the thing though: is you're like the money right now is in licensing, right?
Hmm.
And if you want Bray, you're not going to get him to do documentaries. You're going to do horror movies,
Right.
right? So if you can get him to do a bunch, and he's a draw, right? So you could get those things on streaming services. You can get those like Wyndham Rotunda's directorial debut or whatever. Like you could get that on Shutter
Yeah.
pretty easily, I would assume.
Hmm.
Like that's this is a kind of a no brainer to me, honestly.
Yeah, dude. I think that's the pitch, man. I
I
think that,
agree.
yeah. So I think that would be a great idea. In Impact or Anthem, whatever, they really need to figure
Hey,
that part out.